And Friends comes away with a rebound and a chance to take the lead. 33-32, Emerlehu going for the lead from the left wing. Emerlehu with the triple on the move, ready to run her from 8 feet. No, Jackson snares down the miss and then puts it home for the right side. Jackson in double figures for Friends. Trey Reed looking inside, off to Emerlehu, turns down to 3, kicks it left wing to Trey Reed. He drives in the lane, now to the rim, scoops it up and in, and he got fouled. 7. Tabor ahead with 1:40 to go in overtime. Here's Garner, strong move to the cup on Zoe Rust. She throws it up and makes it, and she gets fouled for one more. Friends ahead, Barberry goes up, and he flushes it down. Barberry taking flight and getting a body in the process. What's going on, everyone? Voice of the Friends Falcons, Pat Strathman here with another edition of the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Here tonight, you're going to hear from the head men's basketball coach at Friends University, Phil McClintock. We are here at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux, just off Mays Road. Always a great time out this way. Game day atmosphere, and at the time of this recording, I got to say, it is a neat little atmosphere here at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. A lot of people having a good time, and not only that, a lot of people enjoying the great food with a southern twist here at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. We appreciate their support of Friends University Athletics. Well, the Friends men's basketball team doing quite well these last couple of games, a 3-game winning streak. You're thinking of maybe a bunch of games jammed up in a 7-day window. Well, the Falcons, they won 3 in a row. They knocked off Spurgeon, and then they went to Kansas City, got a win against Avila, and then they took on Sterling on Saturday, a double overtime win, 92-85. We'll talk about the W's, but since the last time we talked, Coach, let's go back to the game against York, 90-84. I know it was a long time ago, and here we are talking about a 3-game win streak, but here I am leading off with a loss. But I do feel like we have to go back to that point because you guys opened 2024 with a loss to Tabor by 4. And usually when you lose a close game like that, you just wonder, well, what is the atmosphere going to be like? What's the mentality going to be like for the next game? You guys welcome in York. You guys lost by 6, but you saw some fight. You guys were down by double digits, and you guys fought all the way to the very end. Had a chance to make it a 4-point game late if you were to get a bucket, but you didn't. York ends up hanging on to the ball, and the York Panthers get the win at 90-84. I felt like fight-wise, though, you guys were down late and still fought all the way until the very end. So your thoughts going way back then on January 6th and that loss to York?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we this team definitely fights, and we fight to the end. You know, we haven't had any, knock on wood, we haven't had any blowout losses yet this year. And it's been a long time since we've, I feel like we've not been in a game. I mean, even 10 points for us, obviously you can crawl your way back into that one. So, we just, obviously lost that Tabor game, which was pretty disappointing. And then having York at home, Christmas break games, the gym's pretty dead. That's an excuse. But, we haven't had a great crowd. And so we've been playing, we had some injuries and playing different lineups. I just feel like it's taken us a while to kind of get in the groove. And that was one of those games, playing a little bit bigger lineup, playing different lineups. And we just weren't playing our best basketball. It wasn't like we're playing bad. We just weren't clicking like, we have the last few games. And York was, to their credit, they were playing really well and really efficient offensively. And so, obviously, a 90-84 game, we were able to score 84 points, which is, I think, above our average. And so scoring wasn't the issue, but we did have to trap and run and jump a little bit there at the end, trying to crawl back. So we had a chance. It just was one of those games where we just didn't, we weren't clicking on all cylinders, and it cost us that game.
Well, that was just game number 2 without Keon Hutton and also without Colin Macklin. Both those guys are still on the mend and recovering, and hopefully they'll be back sooner rather than later. But whenever you do get thrown that wrinkle into your plan, it changes rotations, it changes guys who are playing with different guys, and you're not really feeling the same, and you're not really knowing what the next guy is going to do. But really in that game, I felt like, you probably wouldn't have noticed. Like, yeah, you notice no Keon, yet you don't notice, some of those guys out there as well, like a Colin Macklin. But, I got to say, though, with what you guys were able to do, you guys were able to hit some shots from beyond the arc. You made 11 in that basketball game. And when you guys have different rotations, it can throw everything off. But it felt like in that game, you guys were still doing pretty good in terms of trying to feel each other out and get a feel of what it's like having a shorter bench.
Yeah, I mean, we've had guys step up, and we've been playing together, and we're just continuing to learn what we're good at, and playing together and on both ends of the floor. And so, in this conference, it's hard in every game. I mean, they're just not an easy game, especially for us this year. I feel like it's just going to be like that. And so it's just going to be competitive, and so there's no time to learn, for this group, through winning and through kind of cruising, and then you can try different things. It's competitive every night, and so we're having to learn, on the fly, and so it's not always going to be pretty.
Yeah, not always for sure. And, regardless of you guys being shorthanded, you only lost by 6 to York, and I think York is an exceptional team, a team that could do some damage. After that, though, you guys embarked on 3 games in a short span of days, and, we were talking about that, practice-wise, you have to treat things a little lighter before going to Kansas City to take on Avila and Sterling. You guys got Spurgeon just a couple days after the York game. And Spurgeon, when I was doing my research, and I know it's a different level. I know it's the NCCAA compared to NAIA and the KCAC, but looking at what Spurgeon was able to do a couple years ago, they have 3 wins. Last year they have double digits. They're in the 14. They have 14 wins, and you're like, okay, well, that might account for something. And then in the NCCAA, they're going into that game ranked number 3. A lot of confidence going into that game. And, boy, they showed it. They came out. They were hustling. And I'm thinking, man, this makes sense to why they're having so much success at their level. You guys calmed down, settled in, went on a very lengthy run, took a commanding lead into halftime, and then just went on the cruise from there to win 95-67. So your thoughts on the win against Spurgeon?
Yeah, it was a good win. I mean, at that point in our season, I mean, it's obviously been a week ago, but
yeah,
it feels like, I mean, this season's all a whirlwind for me with my first year. We needed something to go our way. I mean, it was just that's where we were at. And so after the Tabor, and York loss at home, I knew they were good, and they had more fans in the building than we did by probably 3 times. And so their 2 best players were from Circle High School, that were local. And so, which I didn't expect, but I come out, and there's 3 minutes left in the game. I look, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is not a good, at least it was a recipe for disaster, potentially, right? And so they come out and they're hitting everything and they're playing hard and they're, which credit to their coach. I mean, he did a great job. Like, I mean, they were prepared and we were having trouble finding film on them, and so they were super prepared and did a great job. And so luckily for us, our guys came together and we were able to find a way to, kind of right the ship there early, and we were down 10 and they just decided to play and to guard and to be tough and to do it together. And, once we decide that, we can be pretty good. And so when we were, and that was kind of, we just, like I keep telling them, we needed something to go our way. And I'm telling you guys are close and we're not bad, but you got to create it. It's not just going to happen. And so in that game, we were able to do that. We were able to do it in the first half, and so which was great. So, and kind of put it out of to where it wasn't a game. And we were able to try to do some different lineups in that second half and, do some things different defensively and offensively to try to get things going in our direction and try to get better through that game. And we were able to, and so we were able to win it, which was great because we were having a little bit of trouble not only winning but winning at home. So that one I feel like we were able to break through and gave us some confidence.
Yeah, that was a definitely a different atmosphere to see that many people in blue, and I'm like, okay, I know they're local kids, but, man, I didn't expect the entire town of Towanda or El Dorado to show up in full force, and they did. So I give Spurgeon a lot of credit to that. And I know in that game you have Drew Patterson with 17, Christian Williams with 17, and KJ Spiller with 11. But I felt like that the most important part was allowing some other guys to get some opportunities. Those are guys that work day in and day out. They might not get the regular, everyday type of minutes that you might expect. They're not averaging 35 minutes a game. They're not averaging 25 points per game. But we all know that when you get the practice time, it's important to have guys like Ian Sprowski and Kevin Brown and Aiden Sutter and some of those guys be out there to get the opportunity to play, because we all know that while the guys at the top are doing their thing, you got to be pretty darn good with your number 14, 15, 16 type of players.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. They're really good in practice. They're awesome, in games. Our first reserve record is 5-2 or something like that. Those 2 losses have been to JUCOs. They've been really good, and so they make us better every day. Like you should have. Practice today. I come in here in a bad mood after 3 wins just because they kicked our butt in practice today, which is a great thing to have, because I've been a part of teams where it's not like that, and your guys, your scout team and stuff don't give you looks, and so it's way better to have that happen. But those guys are awesome, and they deserve time to play, and they. If you watched our last game, we've been short and it's been crazy. We're playing a lot of dudes that haven't had a ton of minutes, this season, and so those guys obviously staying ready is important, and giving them some minutes to prove themselves, in game time is great for them and great for us. And it's always nice in games like that. You see our guys that are getting the 30, 35 minutes a game. They're standing up and cheering for them getting buckets, and that is how you build that chemistry that we want to build here. So
yeah, and I love that too, because on the bench, it's whenever a guy gets the ball, you can almost hear the players going, go get a bucket, go attack, and it's just so funny. And then when one guy gets one, then it's like, hey, now it's your turn to go and get a bucket. So gotta love that team atmosphere. Phil McClintock, our guest here on the Friends Basketball Show. He's a head men's basketball coach at Friends University. Falcons are 7-8 overall, 4-6 in conference play. They've now won 3 in a row. They got back-to-back conference wins, including a win in Kansas City against Avila, 67-63. And my memory, ever since Avila has joined this conference, has been anytime you go to Kansas City, I might be broadcasting for the KCAC game of the week, I might have broadcasted for Kansas Wesleyan, whatever it was. When I was there, you tend to see shooting performances that are not the greatest. Normally you see teams shoot the ball poorly in that gym. I don't know what it is. Maybe on the bad luck charm. I don't know. But usually in that building, it is very, very tough, and I can't explain why that is the case. So anytime you go there, you're in for a difficult test. Well, you guys had a 25-9 run that allowed you guys to build a pretty lengthy lead, 55-38 with 11 minutes to play, and then Avila goes on this run, makes things interesting down the stretch. But your team doesn't freak out. You guys get the victory, 67-63. So your thoughts on the win against the Avila Eagles?
Yeah, it was a huge win for us. Obviously, you beat Spurgeon and got some momentum going your way 2 days before. It was a long travel day for us. We went up there and did a shoot-around before. And so, everything was good. The guys were together and had great energy. And we get there, and it was their first week of school. And so they had all their football team was there. It was a raucous crowd. It was cool. Our women's team actually stayed, and they were right behind our bench, and they were going back and forth. And so the atmosphere was really, really electric. It was good. And so, we were making a run. We played some really good basketball, played together. And like you said, we had an 18-point lead, and then, whatever happens, they go on a 16-0 run and end it with a dunk, and their crowd's going crazy. And it's, one of those things that we're like, okay, well, we're in a game now. And so lucky for us, I guess not lucky, but we were able to stay together, and we were able to get the win. And, with that game, we got enough stops. We only allowed 63 points. Which was a little bit different game, obviously than Sterling. But, we were able to get the stops we needed and make free throws down the stretch to ice that game. So it was definitely a big-time toughness game for us, because it wasn't pretty there, especially late when they made their run. But to be able to sustain the run with this group and them to be able to find a way to win was really, really big for us.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. You look at some of those things and, you think, oh, okay, you get a big lead, but you guys have been in a position before where you guys are down 18-0 right out of the gate against McPherson. You come back to win. now how do you react the other way when you're up by,
Yeah.
20-some points, and
Yep.
and how do you hang on to that too, So
Yeah. Well, Friends hadn't beat Avila in 9 contests too, I believe.
which is crazy when you think about it.
I know, and so doesn't mean anything to me because I wasn't a part of that. But I
Right.
know, or admitted, people had told me that it was a thing. Like, hey, just so you know, Friends hasn't beat Avila in a long time. So, and even back to Coach Faber, who was there and saying that to me, I'm like, okay, and they're like, it's a thing. So, being able to get that monkey off your back too, to break a weird streak like that,
Yeah.
that was good for us and the guys, just the program. So,
Yeah, very, 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 very good to get that monkey off the back, as you brought up. And I got to say, when Drew Patterson a couple games ago, he's over 6 from beyond the arc and struggles a little bit. Responds with a couple threes against Spurgeon. He gets a couple threes against the Avila Eagles, and he was able to hit some free throws down the stretch as well. You guys were 20-26 on the free throw line in that game, which that's got to make you happy as well.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Drew's been great for us on both ends, and so for us, when we move the ball and play, as a team, sometimes we get a little dribble happy, which we're trying to get that out of them. Then the ball seems to find Drew. He's always on the perimeter, always in the right spot. It's just our responsibility to be able to move it, to be able to find him. Last couple games we've been able to do that, and he's, when he gets a clean look and doesn't have to work for it, and when we execute to get him clean looks, I mean, you almost know it's going to go in. So, and having him there late to knock down free throws is really important, just because he's got to be out there, and so because he's such a good defender too. So, he's been playing well, and just all of us, we've missed a few key free throws, like in that Tabor game, and there's been a few games where we just miss them, and it's just like one of those things that this group has like something haunting them to where they just want to make it hard on themselves. But in that Avila game when it counted, we were able to make those plays.
Friends men's basketball coach Phil McClintock here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Also broadcasting from Walk On Sports Bistreaux. The Falcons have won 3 in a row. The latest win coming at the hands of the Sterling Warriors, 92-85 in double overtime. I don't know if coaches like saying you scored 92 in 2 overtimes. I don't know if that's the case or not, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. And if there's one thing I know about Sterling last year, they were kind of the darlings of the KCAC with Randy Stang being in his first season. Year number 2, don't have some of the same guards like they did last year, but I would argue they brought in 2 guards that might be even better with Brandon Doss and Mooch Austin, 2 guys that can be a handful. Lucas Breyer comes out red hot, had 13 in the first half. He only missed 1 shot in the first half, if I recall correctly. Sterling leading 42-40 at halftime. But in the second half, numbers dip a little bit. The shooting numbers go down just ever so slightly for both teams. And then it comes down the stretch to where who's going to make those plays, who's going to make those free throws, who's going to make those big-time plays. And, well, you did just enough, Coach, to get the job done in double overtime. Your thoughts on what you saw on Saturday?
Yeah, that was another huge game for us. I mean, they were a couple games ahead of us in the standings, and they'd played some really good basketball, and so we knew it wasn't going to be easy. But our guys, after winning those 2 in a row, you just can feel the momentum build to where hey, we actually think we're good, which is all they need. A little confidence, and that I think that was my first overtime game, and so it was pretty wild. I was really tired after. I'm sure they were too, because we had guys playing like 45, 46 minutes, and but our guys played. They stayed together the whole time. We weren't always perfect and did some things. I think we were a little loose with the ball. We missed a couple free throws that let them stay in it. But every time in that game when we needed a stop, we were able to get it. And that's the game of basketball. And that's the way I want to play, as a defensive-minded guy. And so we got just the right amount of stops we needed, and they're late. I mean, you talk about Lucas Breyer. They were making everything at the beginning of that game, which was super, probably part, due to us. But sometimes teams just do that. They're just hitting shots right in our face. It's like, okay, well, we're going to have to do something to stop them and to slow them down. Well, if you flip that late in the game when we had guys that were tired and had played a ton of minutes, we were able to find it within us to get those stops and, the ones that we needed and the boards, because they were big and we out-rebounded them, and they have been just dominating their opponents on the boards. And so that was huge for us, too. That was part of our, pregame plan. So it was good.
Well, you brought up your first overtime. When's the last time you saw a team shoot over 50 free throw attempts in a game?
A long time. I couldn't believe that, and I'm glad it was us because if I would have looked at that and we lost, I would have been mad. So I'm sure Coach Stang might be a little upset about that.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure it might be a little different on that end.
the officials did a great job, and one of them had told me in the middle of the game, he's like, this game is really hard to officiate.
Sure.
Like, I'm just telling you, it's a hard game to officiate. Everybody's playing physical. It's not easy. So, I mean, and it was a physical game. Both teams played really hard. So
yeah, 37 of 53 from the free throw line. If you're truly interested in the full numbers with what we saw on Saturday, how about Easton Ruffin coming off the bench in 16 minutes, giving you 10 points on 4 or 5 shooting? I don't know why I didn't notice it right off the bat, but I'm calling the game and I'm looking at the rotation and I'm like, I haven't seen Christian Williams yet. What's going on? And I look over and I see he's in street clothes to go with Keon and also to go with Colin, and I'm like, well, you remove him from the equation, there goes another guard. So how do you approach that? Well, Easton, some minutes last year, so it's not like he's a brand new guy, but sometimes when your role gets adjusted, you don't know if you're ready for the call. And it's safe to say Easton was ready to rock and roll for that game on Saturday.
Yeah, Easton, he's one of my favorite kids on the team. He has not even been practicing with us much this year over on, we have two sides, red and white, with the red side with our top guys, just because he hasn't, he was behind a couple guards and wasn't going to get a sniff. Well, I mean, now Chris should be back. We'll see. Just had an eligibility thing where that was lingering from his concussion previously, where he couldn't finish some classes. So
gotcha.
He'll be back. Should be. And so, but we didn't know that until Saturday morning. And so it's like, hey, that's just that. Like I said, that's the way this year has been. And so, but I mean, we know we had a good team. We're going to be, thinner in our rotations. Well, it's next guy up, and I talked to them about that in our pregame, and they believe that. I mean, I'm like, hey, here we go again. You lose Keon, you have Colin out, now you have Chris out. Well, hey, we're not worried about that next guy up, and they know that. And you had Jordan Gary, you got Steve Stacko playing extended minutes. You got, all these guys coming in, and they're just didn't miss a beat. But Easton Ruffin to be able to do that, he had 2 huge boards, 1 tip out, 2 knockdown threes. And the great thing about Easton is the guys trust him. They haven't practiced with him. That doesn't matter. They know what he's going to do, and he's going to play as hard as he can. Outside of that, defensive scheme-wise, he's probably better than a lot of the guys that are playing minutes. Just the 2 games when we've thrown him out there, I'm like, man, that's impressive. So he's been great, and he's, hey, probably going to keep playing a little bit. So earn some minutes. You go out there and do that, you can earn yourself some minutes. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other twist of the game on Saturday, too, you had 2 players fouled out, including KJ in the overtime, and you're thinking, well, there's a guy who scored 22, your leading scorer, that's out. You never know what's going to happen. But I got to say, though, of all the games that we've seen so far this year, that had to have been Steele's best game as a Friends Falcon on Saturday.
Yeah, he's been playing really well, especially defensively. Him on the ball defensively, he's guarding the other team's best player usually. He's just answered the bell time and time again, and it's been impressive. So, if he can, he scored 18. If he can score like that and play that with that confidence offensively, we're going to be in good shape, because that's just something that he just hasn't got going offensively like we know he can. And he had a big bucket against Avila, and like I said, he's been passing the ball well and doing all those things well. It's just and defensively, it's just the scoring that hasn't come. But man, he played with some confidence and was able to do that, Saturday, and hopefully he can continue to do that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Definitely use it.
Well, you'll definitely need them coming up on Wednesday. You go down to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, to take on Oklahoma Wesleyan. Then after that, Bethel at Evangel, Kansas Wesleyan home, and then you got to go to McPherson to restart everything. So it's things are about to make that switch, that turn, and usually that turn in the second part of the season, in which you're facing teams again. You just never know what's going to happen. But Oklahoma Wesleyan this year, I think everyone was curious what they would be like. I think we all knew the type of talent they would have coming back. I think we were all wondering what are they bringing in, because Donnie Boswick has done such a great job. But turns out it's a lot of the same faces, a lot of the familiar faces that could do damage. Probably have one of the best big men I've seen in a long time, and Jaden Litsky, who is, his brother was pretty good, but if you're listening to this, older Litsky, your younger brother's better, because he's so good around the rim. He could be 16 to 17, and you're like, oh, he did that. It's a very quiet 16 to 17. Mm-hmm. So your thoughts on Oklahoma Wesleyan and the challenges that are coming up on Wednesday?
Yeah, they're good. I mean, a lot of their games, just following scores and watching them, have been a little closer this year. I think they're not scoring. I've been in the league a long time, so I've seen a lot of different Donnie Bostwick teams. And this one, I don't think quite has the firepower that some of the ones in the past that'll just, I'm not saying they won't run us into the ground Wednesday or score 120 points. I'm just saying, looking at the scores, it just isn't, the firepower. But defensively, they're elite. I mean, their guards, they're all returning, so they're all on the same page. They run a bunch of sets, and they're great at what they run just because they're on the same page. And just obviously having a center like that on both ends, because he's a great shot blocker. He's great at going vertical and contesting shots. And their guards are just so scrappy and elite defensively, and they just know they're all on the same page. And so they're good. They're as good as they've been. Obviously top 10 in the nation, and I think they're in the lead in the conference, at number 1. Are they tied with K-Dub now?
Probably.
And so, but they're in first, only lost one game. They're good. It's going to be a tough game. And on top of that, going to Oklahoma. I don't know if you know, but that's not an easy place to play or win. So you combine all that, it's going to be a tough game, and, they're always good and well coached. So.
Yeah. Well, should be a lot of fun. At least we hope it'll be a lot of fun. Coach, thanks for the time. Best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Phil McClintock here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. The Falcons, they have won their last 3. They're 7-8 overall, 4-6 in conference play following a win against Sterling, 92-85 in double overtime. Next, Oklahoma Wesleyan, but the next home game coming up on Saturday against Bethel. That should be a big one inside the Garvey Center. 7 o'clock for the men's tip-off, but the women, they officially tip off the fun at 5 o'clock. So please come on out to the Garvey Center and enjoy some great basketball and make it a great atmosphere coming up this weekend. Speaking of great atmospheres, always a great atmosphere here at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. You have NFL playoffs going on. You have college basketball. We're in the thick of things there when it comes to that. This is the best place to catch a sporting event. So come on out to Walk-On Sports Bistreaux on Mays Road. Enjoy the great atmosphere and also enjoy the great food that they have to offer with a great Southern twist. Make sure to come on out and support them because they support Friends University Athletics, and we certainly thank them for their support every week here on the Coaches Show. Well, that does it for us. On behalf of Coach Phil McClintock, I'm Pat Strathman saying so long from Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. We'll see you again next time here with the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM.